Ewan Downey. A handshake, my good friend.
How are you doing?
Good. You're the CEO of i-80 Gold.
Yes, I am.
Lots going on, lots to talk about. You got some exploration stuff going on. You're a development story. Looks like you have a lot of leverage for the gold price. Let's get into it. Let's go for a little drive in Zurich. So why are you in Zurich?
The European Gold Forum starts tomorrow, so we're here to, I guess, promote our stock to some of the European funds. A lot of the
This conference that you're at, is it you were invited here?
It's I wouldn't say it's invite only, but it's mainly sort of for the larger companies come across here, and a lot of institutions from across Europe show up at the show. I would say it's one of the premier European mining forums that you can find.
Okay, so when it comes to i-80 Gold, what are the goals for 2023? What's on the document list?
2023 is a big year for us in terms of exploration, mainly at our Ruby Hill project, because we made a very high-grade polymetallic discovery at that property that we're really trying to establish just how big it is. And recently we, because of that discovery, decided to make the acquisition of our next-door neighbor, Paycore. That's just one facet of what we're doing this year. The other part is we are in the process of developing several operations. Our plan is to build several mines over the next 3 years. And currently we have 2 underground programs going right now. So it's we're doing a bit of both, a bit of development and exploration. And it's a big year in terms of our development capital that we're spending. But that will see our production really start to ramp up, especially in the second half of this year.
And for the viewers, where's the Paycore transaction at right now? What, are you waiting for board approval, or you're waiting for a shareholder vote?
Yeah, the shareholder vote is where it's at. Was announced a few weeks back, and then you put it in the hands of the lawyers. That usually takes a while. And following the work that they do, the circular should go out here in the near future, and there'll be a vote.
And what was your decision to go after Paycore? Well, how did that even start?
We actually became involved in the Ruby Hill property while assisting them in doing a due diligence program on their property. And Waterton owned the FAD property, which Paycore acquired, and adjacent to that, the Ruby Hill deposit. And the Ruby Hill mine, they were just taking out the remnants of the open pit when that transaction happened. So they were interested in the Paycore block, and we took pretty keen interest in Ruby Hill based on assisting in their due diligence. So we followed very closely what they did. They've had substantial success in their exploration. In my opinion, they have one of the highest grade polymetallic deposits anywhere in the world. I'd compare it to the LaRonde mine that made Agnico. Not quite that scale yet, but when you combine it with what we're doing at Ruby Hill, I think that we're developing a world-class project that will go into production for, I think, decades. And there were some other parties that were starting to look at Paycore and consider, are they worth them buying? And when we heard there could be some competition, we had meetings with them and made the decision to take them over, and their largest shareholder, Waterton, has locked up to vote in favor of it.
Well, that makes things a little easier, doesn't it?
It sure does. When they own 25%, it's really a controlling ownership. So, but there was some talk in the market that there was another party looking to buy Waterton's block, and we had a decision to make. Either we let somebody else buy it, we buy the block, or we take it over. And given our capital that we're spending on our development projects, we felt the best scenario was for us to take them over, and Paycore was in favor of us taking them over.
Okay. When I bring up Equinox Gold, what comes to mind?
A great bunch of guys. Equinox acquired Premier, so i-80 was spun out as part of that takeover transaction almost exactly 2 years ago. I think they've had some issues with their mines. Some of their mines have been really probably affected by the cost environment that we've seen lately, and their share price has taken a bit of a hit because of that. But the Greenstone project, which was our project that we were looking to develop when they took us over, in my opinion, is going to be one of Canada's top mines. And so I think Equinox is going to see a significant re-rate in the near future, and they're our largest shareholder. So we like having them as a shareholder and hope they continue to hold the rest of their block.
When it comes to them being the largest shareholder in your company, have they been selling shares recently, and if so, why?
Yeah, they were the largest shareholder of a company called Solaris. It's a copper company, and they're the largest shareholder of our company. And with the Greenstone project they acquired us for is a very capital intensive project. It's a very large mine, and their capital needs just became greater than I think what they expected because of the higher costs on their operations. They weren't making as much money off their mines as I think they'd hoped. Mm-hmm. And therefore, to make up the gap, they were selling stock, and they sold almost all or maybe all of their Solaris now. And they did sell some of our stock earlier this year, and that rumor got out that they were going to sell some of our stock, and it certainly hurt our share price in the first quarter of this year. But that sale set aside, we think that they are interested in holding the rest of their block as long as their finances stay stronger under the current gold environment. So I would expect them to be a holder. I think if you ask them, they talk about us being a core position for them. And if you look at how their mines performed in 2022 and our share price performed, I'd argue that their best performing asset in their portfolio was our stock.
Are they still a reporting shareholder, or do they?
Yeah, they still have to report insider trading if they were to sell more, but they did want to drop below 20%. There's different reporting requirements if you're over 20.
Yeah. And
they sold down to 19.9, so that alleviates some of that. But it's also in our best interest to see them below 20%, because we trade on the New York Stock Exchange in addition to the Toronto Stock Exchange. And we're a large enough company, we have sufficient volume that we would qualify for a lot of indexes. But some of the US indexes we didn't qualify for because we had a plus 20% shareholder.
They were controlling.
Yeah. So without that 20% being below 20 now, that we should start to qualify for more and more of the indexes in the US. And you can definitely see how our volume has really picked up in the US, and we actually trade daily, often significantly more in the United States than we do in Canada. So that's good for our liquidity in our company, and I think long term for the share price.
Okay. So do you want to kind of sort of give us an overview on your projects?
Yeah, we are one of only 3 companies in the entire United States that owns a facility capable of processing refractory ore. And that's significant in Nevada because the easy oxide deposits have mostly been mined out, and most of the top operations in Nevada over the past couple of decades have transitioned from mining oxide ore to mining sulfide ore. And Barrick and Newmont, who combined their assets to create Nevada Gold Mines, owned 4 of the 5 processing facilities. So in my opinion, they had a big monopoly on the state. And for us to grow, our Cove project is one of the highest grade development stage gold deposits in North America. But we didn't have a processing facility for it. So it was permanent to go underground, but it was sitting idle because we didn't have a processing arrangement. And when we started i-80, we were able to negotiate a deal with Nevada Gold Mines to acquire one of their 4 processing facilities. So that gives us a big competitive advantage to grow. And I would say that longer term, we would expect that autoclave will become our flagship asset, because it will allow us to be a producer in the state for a long term. Whereas if you don't have one of these processing facilities, your longevity in the States, I would say, is limited. So I'd say Lone Tree is a processing site. It's got a fabulous gold deposit there, but it's not something that is in our current development plans. Our near-term development plans are mining at Granite Creek, which we are. We just are putting in our 4th level in the development of that underground mine. Like I said earlier, will result in our production starting to really ramp up in the second half of this year. We are underground now at our Cove project, the one that we had in Premier, that we're permitted, but we're sitting on. So we're about 70% complete the underground development there. We're drilling underground, moving that towards feasibility. And we are in the process of permit submissions for the underground operation at Ruby Hill. So for us to run that autoclave facility, we need 3 underground mines to feed it, because it's a fairly large facility.
What's the CapEx there?
The CapEx on that restart, we actually just published last week, is around $250 million US for that restart, and then the various development of the projects. But the beauty of having the Lone Tree Autoclave is that we have one processing facility for 3 mines, whereas often in our industry, you build a mine and a processing facility. So instead of having to build 3 individual processing facilities, we plan to use the one and truck the ore to that one facility. So that will lower our capital needs for the scale that we're building than you typically find in the market.
Yeah. So normally, if you were building one, what would it cost?
If you were to build the Lone Tree site again today, it would cost you at least $1 billion.
So you're doing it for a quarter of the cost.
Yes, and there's also a flotation circuit. There's a heap leach there, and so if you could even permit an autoclave, which would be difficult in today's environmental environment.
Yeah.
If you could permit one of these sites, it would cost more than our market cap to build it. So, and then we have a processing facility at Ruby Hill as well that we're currently looking at converting to do flotation. So 2 base metal concentrates, a lead and a zinc concentrate. So our long-term vision over the next 3 or 4 years is to be a producer of gold, silver, lead, and zinc. So we produce all of those, and on a gold equivalent basis, developing those operations, it's our target to become the 2nd largest gold producer in the United States.
Do you have a targeted ounce?
Yeah, with the development of all of those assets, we would expect on a gold equivalent. As I said, the Ruby Hill deposits, there is a gold deposit and a polymetallic deposit. On a gold equivalent base, our target's to do approximately 500,000 ounces a year. And that would put us in the mid-tier producer category in one of the safest jurisdictions in the world, a US-only gold company. And our peer comparables trade in the billions of market cap, whereas we're trading currently US about 600-700 million.
Yeah.
So I do believe there's a significant re-rate, but we are in that, if you believe in the Lassonde curve, we are in that development stage where you go through the exploration success, you roll over in development, and then as production ramps up, the stocks typically pick up again. And that's, we believe we're in the early phases of that production ramp up, and this year should be a very strong year for our company in the second half of the year. We do produce gold. Last year we produced about 25,000 ounces of gold. This year we expect to increase that. I wouldn't say double, but close to it. And then next year, our production should close in on closer to 100,000 ounces a year. So over the next several years, we expect to see our production go from small production, as we saw last year, to fairly significant production with the startup of one of the processing facilities. And both processing facilities would produce in the range of about 250,000 ounces per year. We expect to have one of the 2 processing facilities running by the end of 2025.
Okay. So I'm going to segue into macro stuff, but is there anything that we haven't touched on the exploration side that you want to sort of highlight?
I just say that the deposit, the Hilltop discovery we made at Ruby Hill is truly one of the highest grade new discoveries you'll find anywhere in the world. We actually drill gold, silver, and base metals in that discovery. And as we drill that out, we've been finding new deposits pretty regularly with our drill program in the polymetallics, but we are also drilling for additional gold deposits, and it's a very unique property because it has a refractory gold deposit, the Ruby Deeps deposit, right beside these polymetallic and base metal deposits. There's a skarn, so a zinc-rich skarn deposit, only hundreds of meters away from the gold deposit. And then 500 meters south of that are these very precious metal-rich CRD, carbonate replacement deposits, that we've been drilling off. And of course, then there's Paycore, which is a very high-grade polymetallic deposit with very significant gold credits. And so I think that this year you'll see significant news flow coming out of that asset.
Yeah.
And then the Cove underground drill program has about 40,000 meters of underground drilling taking place over the next 18 months. So significant exploration news flow as we develop. So I think we're trying to have both the exploration success side of the Lassonde curve at the same time as we see hopefully coming out the bottom of the development curve. So maybe we can
You're trying to
double
create
up.
a new curve.
Yeah, create a new curve, or take advantage of both curves.
Yeah, let's talk macros now, because this is, I mean, gold is a very exciting spot to be in. Obviously, you have other metals, but what do you think is going to happen to the gold price, and why?
I'm very, very bullish on the price of gold. I think that the political environment that we're seeing right now is being underestimated by most people. There's almost, in addition to the Ukraine war that is going on, there's also, in my opinion, a bit of an economic war taking place. Who's going to have dollar dominance? And for many decades now, the U.S. has enjoyed the reserve currency status, but China is definitely working towards trying to get their dollar to take over as a reserve currency, and the BRICS. So Russia is now trading, I think, oil in almost entirely in yuans. Brazil's talking about moving that way. Saudi Arabia is talking about perhaps trading in yuan. And if that actually plays out, where these countries, and a place like Saudi Arabia, one of the major oil producers in the world, that would definitely put a shock into the US dollar. And I think that China, we see them buying gold every month. They're adding tons and tons, I think 18 tons last month. So they're moving away from US dollars into gold, and I think that's purposeful. And if these countries do really take hold of trading in the yuan, that is a competitor of the reserve currency for the U.S., that will result in significant devaluation in the U.S. dollar, and I believe we're going to see gold go up another 25% from where it is today. It's not going to be easy for our governments to transition to the green movement. In fact, when I hear any government say that by 2030 they want no fossil fuels, I think it's a joke. It's impossible to happen.
Yeah.
So oil is going to be in huge demand for, I think, decades to come. And our governments are actually trying to push oil away, even not even producing it ourselves anymore. And the countries that are doing it, you look at the UAE and Qatar, these people pay no tax because the countries are so wealthy because they embrace their resources.
Because Canada has so much resources. We have so much sitting beneath the earth in our own country that we can support so much our economy and offset taxes. And obviously we're offsetting all these carbon things, and we've now highlighted all of these goals that we have that are so unrealistic, but all the people that have the materials that we need to even make those things happen, we don't control, and we don't want to invest in them.
Exactly. And a lot of the countries that produce the metals and produce the gas have much less stringent regulations on the production than what we have in North America. So in many ways, the cleanest oil is North American produced oil. So if we're not going to be able to get away from it as quickly as I think governments would like, and we need to hopefully help out other countries, we will actually be reducing the carbon footprint, so to speak, because we will be doing it much more environmentally friendly than other countries would.
Well, I think it's been a great interview. I'm headed towards dropping you off at the hotel. So where do you want to leave this interview off for a potential new shareholder in our community?
I would say we're a company, we've got a significant cash balance. We've got great supporting shareholders like Orion Mine Finance, who's one of our largest shareholders. We're a company that in all categories has over 14 million ounces of gold resources, which positions us amongst the top 3 in all of the United States. We also have silver resources in excess of 180 million ounces on top of that. And we're currently drilling out significant base metals in our polymetallic deposits at Ruby Hill. So our resource endowment that backs up our future production is almost second to none in the United States, other than what Barrick and Newmont have.
So you got a lot of leverage to the gold price and other metals. What is the balance sheet look like right now, to be specific?
I would say currently we have in the range of 60 to 70 million in cash, US dollars in cash. We do make some money off our, we do get some money back from our gold production.
Yep.
But it is a development heavy year this year. And but we did a financing earlier this year that shored up our balance sheet for the near and medium term.
Awesome. Well, you know what? Let's leave it on a handshake. Say thank you very much. I'm glad you had a safe trip here. Enjoy your stay in beautiful Zurich, and I wish you and the company nothing but success.
Thank you very much. Great to meet you, and great to be on in your car.
Thank you.